I think you'll all have got the impression already this is a really superb effort. I mean, there's a fantastic amount of stuff in it. It's a really good sort of wake-up call and corrective to the sort of excessive hype about high rates of economic growth, which has been a feature of the last few years. So I hope it'll be really influential. I have a couple of thoughts, though, about the way the issues are currently presented, and some thoughts about things that would deserve more emphasis next time round. And I'm happy to hear that these things are actually going to get more emphasis in the next issue. Some of the messages coming out from here are, I think, relatively sort of easy and comfortable for people in power to accept. Mm-hmm. Others are much more difficult, I think. And I think there will be a case for giving more prominence to the difficult messages in the future. I want to say something about agriculture, and agriculture has been mentioned several times, but I want to say a bit more about that, and then I want to say some more about politics, which has also been discussed a little bit. All of this is in here. There are some very nice sentences in the overview which capture these things. But I think it needs to be taken further. I mean, on agriculture, the discussion contains the very important statement that in most industrialization experiences, the rise in agricultural productivity was what allowed labor to be released to industry and produce the food necessary to moderate any hikes in urban industrial wages. Now, this is textbook stuff, most articulately expressed years ago by people like John Mellor and Michael Lipton. It's clear, I think, that the manufacturing growth that Africa now needs to be very employment intensive. The most hopeful vision, I think, is the one that Justin Lin in particular has promoted, that within a relatively short space of time, wages in China will go up to the point where Chinese firms actually want to go offshore to other parts of the world. And the big question for Africa is about whether it can grab a slice of that action. And the key things that will affect that will be about infrastructure, skills, but also an abundant supply of wage goods, in particular agricultural products. And the classic argument about this, which is expressed in that little quote there, is that in order to have successful employment-intensive manufacturing, you have to raise the productivity of staple food production by making a technological breakthrough. And in fact, I mean, as the textbooks say, I mean, all successful industrialization experience, with the possible exception of Hong Kong, have always rested on the foundation of a transformation of staple food production through technological change. And I'm very influenced here by an excellent research project led out of the University of Leiden in the Netherlands called Tracking Development, which looked at the experience of pairs of Southeast Asian and African countries over the whole period from 1960 up to 2000. And what emerges from that story is that the thing that the Southeast Asians did successfully, which allowed them to eventually to break through into industrialization, was begin very early in transforming smallholder agricultural production. So I would hope very much that that will be a big theme in the next transformation report. One of the findings of the Leiden-based study is that the principal reason why the Southeast Asians did this and African planners didn't do it in the 60s and 1970s was that they had different attitudes towards agriculture and towards peasants. So this is one of the reasons why this is a difficult message, I think. I mean, it's textbook stuff, but there's an awful lot of resistance among people in power in Africa to the idea that peasants are the foundation of development, whereas that was a natural assumption in Malaysia, Indonesia, Thailand, and so forth. Politics, this now has been mentioned several times, and I'm influenced here by a conversation that I had with Yo in Addis Ababa about Ghana. On page 9 it says, especially daunting will be formulating and implementing a long-term transformation vision and strategy across electoral cycles in polarized multi-party democracies. Now, we've got a lot of polarized multi-party democracies now which function in a way that makes the politicians extremely short-termist, extremely unwilling to collaborate with members of other parties on matters of national interest. I think this would deserve attention in, as a central topic in one of the future reports. One of the questions which one could illustrate with Ghana, I think, is whether there are ways that certain kinds of issues, like, for example, reforming land law in the Ghanaian case, could be regarded as so important for the national interest that they are sort of taken out of the political fray and raised to a higher level. And I'd love to hear what KY and your are thinking about the possibility of doing that sort of thing in the Ghana case. And if that's absolutely impossible, we need to be thinking also about other things that could be done, how these sort of coalitions among the state and the producers and the bureaucrats at sort of subsectoral level might be brokered and arranged. And I think ASET has made an excellent start in doing that. We need to document any successes and try to take that forward. I think it's a really good piece of work and very suggestive of a number of new avenues.
Thanks, David, and thanks for those really insightful comments. So, actually, your mention of the Leiden study reminds me that there's, I think, quite an important set of studies by IFPRI, which look in particular at the role of food staples within the agricultural sector as a source of growth and employment. Yeah. And there's certainly a huge potential for import substitution. $35 billion worth of imported food.
And it's one clear area in which there's no conflict at all between the transformation objective and the poverty reduction objective. I mean, they marry up completely in that sense.
Yeah. Thanks very much. So, Mavis, we're now going to the extremes of the table, the extreme left and the extreme right, although that's not obviously a reflection of the opinions that we're going to get.